Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mastering Mental Wellness with my lovely, lovely co-host, Sir Isaac. And
Hello, everyone.
we've got us a fun topic today, one that I knew nothing about. So, we're still operating in the dark here. It's called treatment-resistant depression.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know such a thing existed until I don't remember now who suggested it. Last show, somebody suggested it.
Yeah, somebody, I can't remember.
I don't remember now who it was that suggested it. It was a good topic, though, so that's what we're going with. And we've got a few more to take us into a couple of more shows, and then we'll be hitting y'all up with, okay, any ideas?
Yeah.
What do you want us to talk about? And let's see, say hello to a few people we got here. We've got Patrick and Marby and Owen Walker.
Yes.
And Rose and Edward. Hi, Edward. He
Hello.
just got here. And thank y'all for coming. And
Yes.
if I seem a bit discombobulated today, I still have a hangover from last night. So I only had 2 drinks. Over a 4-hour period.
Party
I only
girl.
had 2 drinks, and I was like, I woke up this morning like, oh my God, my head's gonna explode. And I've never gotten hangovers before, ever.
Wow.
And so I don't know. Hi, Winnie Boo. And so I'm a little slow on the uptake today.
Okay. All right.
So I'm going to let Isaac take over now and explain to us what this is and how do we deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you're ready for me to pop up the document, just say the word.
Okay.
I've got it lined up. So, and
well, I guess I could start by saying that depression is something that affects a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. A lot of people will experience a period of depression after a death. They call it a period of bereavement, and it usually never lasts more than 2 weeks, but you get all of the symptoms. But as far as treatment resistant depression, it means that medication won't stop it. A lot of people, well, I guess the best way I can explain it is and I don't know if anybody's seen the commercials on television or online where they have the people with the little fan thing with the smile written on it.
oh yeah.
Yeah, those are people that they're medicating for treatment resistant depression. And it seems like the depression will never lift. And they'll try a lot of different medications. The most important thing is that you have to get with a medical professional. A lot of people will go to their like a general practitioner, but I would not, if it's an emergency and you can't get in to see a psychiatrist, I would recommend that. But I would recommend a psychiatrist if you can get in to see them, because that's their area of expertise, and they're going to be able to focus in on it a lot quicker. And they use. Go ahead.
I was going to say, isn't a psychiatrist is an MD, right?
Yes.
Whereas a psychologist isn't necessarily an MD.
Right.
Okay, so a psychiatrist can prescribe medications,
right,
where a psychologist cannot.
Well, that's true. Let's say that's true in the state that I live in. Probably true in the state that you live in. But in some states, a psychologist can prescribe medication.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes, that can happen. But you could go to a psychiatrist or a psychiatric nurse practitioner, because this is what they deal with all the time.
Right.
And they're gonna
it's very specialized training.
Yes. And
Yeah.
and a psychiatrist is trained as a medical doctor, so they know all of they know how the body works, but that's just their area of expertise. And they're going to prescribe medicine based on the information that you give them, because depression is based on behavioral things like I can't sleep, or I wake up at a certain time, and then I start to maybe isolate from people, or I feel worthless. Though it's like criterias that they look at, and they'll ask you all of these questions.
Gotcha.
Mhm. And sometimes
Gotcha.
a person who's anxious has anxiety, because anxiety will keep a person awake, and they may develop depression. But, uh, the treatment resistant, they may prescribe, like, 2 or 3 medications to go together. Uh, One thing that they have researched and they've started doing is they've started adding S-ketamine, ES-ketamine, because I some people have taken ketamine. They started testing ketamine for to break through depression, but it's not like intravenous. It's like a nasal spray.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. It's like a nasal spray. That's what I've read. I've never known anybody who had to take it, but I do know that there are some people.
Well, isn't ketamine like a horse
Tranquilizer.
tranquilizer or something? Yeah.
Yes, but I think some people were using it off label because some people were responding to it. It's
Oh,
like it may have been somebody who was like experimenting and then start realizing, hey, I'm not depressed anymore. And
okay.
I think that's how they uh uh started realizing
Okay.
that it may have had another use. And they say that when it's given intravenously, it it loses the effect more quickly. So that's why they give it nasally, because you may have to have it 2 or 3 times a week in the beginning. But what I would say for anybody is, if you're depressed, it's best to get to the root of the depression. It could be genetic. It could be just something that is in the family and everybody was depressed. But if it resulted from maybe like a past issue, it's good to get into
Okay.
therapy with it. Because think about it like this: if you're depressed and all of a sudden you're not depressed anymore, you still got the issue. And so some people would rather be depressed than deal with the issue. I think it's an unconscious thing, though. I really do. Because I think if the the pain of the depression, I think this is just my perspective, is no worse than the pain of the trauma.
Okay.
So you're just choosing one or the other. Will I have this pain of depression, or will I have this pain of dealing with my issues? The pain of dealing with your issues has the potential for a positive result. The pain of dealing with depression is going to probably end poorly. Or you just suffer. Did you realize that you can have a psychotic reaction to depression?
No,
You
no,
can you
I
can
was
have
not aware of that.
a major depression with psychotic features, which means you may hallucinate or something like that.
Oh,
So that
wow. Okay.
uh-huh. Yeah, that's the thing. And it's all
Now,
the go ahead.
does that happen because of certain types of depression, or just any kind of depression? Or
Well, just depression if it lasts a long period of time. If it lasts a long period of time, I don't know the ins and outs of it because I'm not a psychiatrist. I just worked around them along for a long
right, right,
time,
right.
and
Yeah.
I've worked in community mental health, where people have been diagnosed with uh, major depression with psychotic features.
I got you. I got you. Linda had a question about the ketamine. Wasn't that used for people with PTSD?
I've read some of that, and I'm thinking that it would be to treat the depression part of it. And because, see, they would have to get them to a point where they could be able to look at the issues and start dealing with them. And I think, because think about it, if you've had a traumatic event that you're trying to forget by going away in your head or numbing out. If you're not depressed anymore, it's not dull anymore. It's fresh again. So you got to deal with it. And I think that may be what they're giving them, putting it on board so that they can get past the traumatic part so that they can deal with the issue. It would be great. It would be great that if we could, but medication won't make anything go away. It will just make.
Well, I know, like with my son, he suffers with PTSD from military action, and they also discovered that he has adult ADHD.
Okay.
And so he takes, I want to say Adderall, but that's not the one. Vyvanse, that's the one he takes.
Okay.
He takes Vyvanse, and that helps keep him, keeps his ability to focus on things. Otherwise, he gets really scattered, and he can go down into a depression that fast,
Right.
So, okay, you saw what Mary put. And it may have depended on what kind of medication they were giving. And some of these medicines are still kind of experimental. And you can have adverse reactions to them, just like you can give Benadryl to an adult and it'll make them fall asleep. You give Benadryl to a 5-year-old and they're going to be bouncing off the ceiling for the next 10 hours,
I'm glad to hear that about Mary's daughter, though. But
I'm glad that
this is one thing that I've found with people, just individuals. What will happen is say, for instance, if I were depressed, but the doctor gave me medication and say, come back and see me, because it's usually like 2 to 4 weeks before it takes effect. And the doctor says, are you taking your medicine? Yes. Are you able to sleep? No, I'm still waking up and I still cry for no reason. And he says, okay, I'm going to increase your medication. And then he increases it. Now, mind you, we gotta, if someone gives us medication, it has to get into our system at a certain level, so that it'll be effective. A lot of people don't take their medication as prescribed. They may have forgotten it one day, and then they don't take it like 2 or 3 days in the week, and then they go back and tell the doctor they've been taking it. So the doctor says, "Oh, they've been taking the medicine, so it must not be at a therapeutic level. So let me add some." And the doctor will add the medicine. They'll take it, and they just pass out, sleep. They're like, I'm not going to take that. That's too strong. And then they'll stop taking it. And then they're going back and forth. Does that make sense?
Oh, so, no, absolutely. Because I know when I was going through kind of a rough patch with some stuff, and I had been gaining weight. I still lived in Phoenix at the time. And my doctor prescribed, it's an antidepressive that they discovered helps people lose weight and stop smoking. And so she prescribed that for me.
Wellbutrin?
I don't even remember what it was now. And it didn't decrease my appetite. It didn't make me not want to not smoke anymore. But what it did do was it gave me night terrors. Not just a nightmare, but I'm talking waking up screaming at the top of my lungs,
Wow.
night terrors. And when I realized what was happening, I literally called the doctor and said, I'm not taking this anymore. I said, I've been taking it just because I've been dealing with pain management for so long. I know the importance of taking your medicine every day at the same time, every day on a regular schedule. I mean, I have alarms set up on my phone for when it's time to medicate, you know, because I take pain medications and stuff. And it's kind of the same concept with that the goal isn't to be pain-free, although that would be lovely. The goal is to be pain manageable. You just keep it at a steady level that you can still function. And so you take your medicine at the same time every day,
right,
regardless of how you're feeling, and it just keeps you at that manageable level. You still hurt, but you're not hurting like you were if you didn't take it at all. And I know with pain medicine, I think that the biggest problem I ran into was trying to get a new doctor that I would understand the concept of pain medication and how to take it. And it literally felt like I was given 2 tutorials every time I'd have to switch a doctor on how I took medicine and why I did it the way I did it. Because my original pain management doctor, that's how he explained it to me. You know, you figure out what are your peak times of pain, and then you set it up so that you're taking that medicine maybe an hour before that peak time hits, and you take it at the same time every day, and so you never hit the peak. You just keep it at that manageable level. And whereas most people won't take anything until they hit the peak.
Right.
They take a pill and then they crash from it. But after a while, it takes more and more and more of the medicine to pull you down off of that peak. And whereas if you do it steadily, same medicine, same time every day. I mean, I've been on 10 milligrams or less since 1999. And it still works for me. You know,
good.
I mean, there are days when I might have to take 2 pills instead of 1, just because I'm having that kind of day. But yeah, it helps me to be able to regulate what's going on. You know, with pain. Now that's with pain management. But I know one of the top questions they ask, because I have to go into my pain management doctor every 3 months.
Okay.
Just to get my prescriptions renewed. I have to go in and go over what happened the last 3 months. Did I have any issues? And one of their top questions are depression and anxiety, because pain medication can cause depression and anxiety. So, because I know when I first started having to fill out those questionnaires, and I was like, why are y'all asking me if I'm depressed? I'm not here because I'm depressed. I'm here because my back freaking hurts, you know?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, but the medication causes, that's one of the side effects for that medicine is depression and anxiety. So, yeah.
And that's a regular routine now. If you go to like your general practitioner, they're supposed to assess for depression and anxiety. Well, depression or suicidal ideations.
Okay. And trying to see if anybody else. Mary said that a doctor had told her that the gene for depression is the same as for alcoholism. So I've never heard that. So
I've never heard that.
But that's a question. That's a good Google question.
Right. Yeah. AI would tell you.
It'll tell you what, you know, just type it into Google and you'll get an answer. Because I know with alcoholism, that a lot of that depends on they have found certain chemicals in the brain are either not functioning correctly or are depressed from, say, swelling vessels and whatnot around it, and it's almost like a gene.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why they say it's hereditary.
Now I know that alcohol is a depressant. It will
Yeah.
make a person depressed over
Oh
time, and
yeah, big time.
that's why they will use more, because they're trying to elevate their mood, and it does, but then it puts them back into the depression. So, and maybe he was relating it somehow like that.
I don't know. I'm gonna Google it and see what Google says. See what we can find out.
Yeah, that would be interesting. But it's and I saw somebody earlier said that, and I've heard that some antidepressants can cause people to become suicidal. And what I would say is we're all different. We all are made up differently. And that would be like somebody having you don't know what chemicals in your body are reacting to a particular medication, because they're basing the medication on how it works for most people in general. And what I do know now is that people are getting medical tests to decide what medication would work best for them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just Googled it, and it says on here, because I asked, is the gene for depression the same as the gene for alcoholism? And the answer it gave me was no. The gene for depression is not the same as the gene for alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
But research indicates that there is significant overlap in genetic factors that contribute to both conditions.
Okay.
Meaning that some genes can increase the risk of developing either depression or alcoholism,
Okay.
suggesting a shared genetic susceptibility between the two disorders.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, you might not have one single depression gene or alcoholism gene, but rather multiple genes that can influence the likelihood of developing either condition, depending on individual variations and environmental factors.
Mm, that's good to know. And that may be why he said
Yeah.
that. That may be why he said it. Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, and doctors can make mistakes on stuff like this just as easily as a layman can. I mean, because they might read something in a white paper that comes out with, in medical terminology, a lot of the journal articles and stuff that'll get printed up for medical things is called the white papers. And so, which there's still a couple that I still kind of read on a regular basis, just to kind of keep up with what's going on. Because I was in the field for 30 plus years. And so it's like, there are certain things I like to kind of just keep tabs on. But yeah, I mean, I know, who was it? Mary said, yeah, Wellbutrin. I've heard that it's had some bad side effects, but a lot of medicines do. And especially if what you're being treated for is not necessarily what that medication is for. And kind of like Benadryl with kids, you can have the adverse reaction. It's you're gonna. I mean, that's just my way of making logical sense out of that, and I could be completely wrong, y'all. So I'm not a doctor, so but I mean, I know like my grandmother was a severe alcoholic, but my mother never drank. Socially, if it was a special event or something, she might have like a glass of wine or something. But she was not a drinker. Now her sister, she did drink, not to excess, but she drank a lot more than what my mom did. And I was never predisposed for alcohol. I mean, I rarely drink it because it usually just makes me sick of the stomach. I mean, there's some of the fancy drinks, margaritas, pina coladas, Yeah, I enjoy drinking those, but they're mostly sweet or salty. You don't really taste the alcohol in them. And so I can, like last night, I had 2 margaritas, in a glass like this, old-fashioned size glass, and it was, they were both drank over a period of about 4 hours, so it wasn't like they were down the hatch one after the other, because we got there just as happy hour was starting, so it was like I got 2 for the price of 1. So just before happy hour ended, my waiter brought my second drink, and so which I sat and sipped on the rest of the night. And I still woke up with a hangover this morning, which is so wild because I never got hangovers before. This is the first time I've ever had a hangover in my life, and I used to be able to drink everybody else under the table. I mean, everybody else would be falling out, and I'd be like, "Let's go, another round. Let's go."
Well, everything changes. It's like our
I'm a hell of a lot older.
I don't know. It's like we need to know what affects us because most things are generalized, and at some point, some things don't work anymore. I know I'm allergic to penicillin, but there was a time when I was not allergic to penicillin. So you got to ask yourself, what happens? Did something?
And I'm the opposite. When I was younger, I was allergic to penicillin. I couldn't have anything that had penicillin in it. I would have an adverse reaction. But as an adult, now if I get sick, they can give me something like amoxicillin or one of those. No problems at all.
It just depends on the makeup of our body and what works for us and what doesn't. And I think if we focus on the self-care and what works best for us, I think we can get a pretty good handle on how we can take care of ourselves.
Well, and I think a lot of that is very true of knowing your own body well enough to know what works for you and what doesn't.
Right.
I mean, my mother drank coffee morning, noon, and night. She could down a pot of coffee 30 minutes before she went to bed and sleep like a baby all night long. Whereas other people, if they have a cup of coffee at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they're up half the night because the caffeine is just, that's the way it affects them,
I'm like your mom. I can drink coffee all day and it just does not bother me. I don't know. I love coffee. I love the smell of it, but I see what you mean.
Yeah, no, I love coffee, dude. And I used to drink coffee like that. And I started getting some stomach problems with it. So I like pared way back. I'll have 2, maybe 3 cups in the morning. And it's very rare that I have any in the evening. Usually if it's really cold out, and my son will make a pot of coffee just before I get home from work. And that's nice to have a cup of hot coffee, when you come in and it's been freezing ass cold.
Wow. I'm looking at Innocent Potato.
What did she say?
She doesn't take any prescription meds. I wish I would.
Wow.
I was clinically depressed at one time. And I was like, I'm not going to worry about anything anymore. But I like the idea that she's on 0 prescriptions. I can't remember what the doctor gave me, but the depression lifted. And I'm like, nope, I'm not going back there anymore. Because mine was situational, and I know that. It wasn't like...
Jane tickles me. Sounds like we take same meds. I have a freaking pharmacy. I have one drawer that's nothing but pills. And there's probably 20 bottles that I take out every week to make up my medicine trays, because I'll never remember to take everything if I just go to the bottle. I won't remember if I took something or if I didn't take something. So I got the little trays, one for morning, one for lunchtime, and one for evening. And Saturday night, that's usually what I do on Saturday night before I do the slumber party, is I do my medicine trays. And so I have all my pills out, you know. Anybody that walks by you'll think, oh my God, you got a pharmacy sitting there. It's like, yeah, that's pretty much what it looks like. And but then again, that's because I don't eat what I should. Whenever my doctor is like, well, you know, you should probably eat some, you know, put some asparagus or broccoli in your diet. And I just looked at him. I said, no. He said, what do you mean, no? I said, I don't eat green food. No. I said,
really? Sure.
Honest to God, I don't eat green food. He says, you don't eat green. I said, I don't eat vegetables. No, it's not happening. It's not happening. It's just not happening. I said, give me a pill. I'll take a pill. And so now anytime something abnormal shows up on a blood test or something, and he'll come in and he'll start to go into the spiel of, well, maybe if you add this to your diet, then he'll catch himself. He'll say, no, never mind. I'll just give you a pill. I'm like, you're learning. And he laughs about it. He thinks it's hilarious. But I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not eating that. It just forget it. Give me a pill, you know. So
yeah.
And the thing is the things that are abnormal in me, like for the type 2 diabetes and my cholesterol's off and whatnot. But it's nothing drastic. It's like it's just just under the line of what the standards are, you know. And so I probably take the lowest dose they make for any of the medications I take, simply because it just kind of helps keep it stable, and I'm not spiking and running all over the place, you know. So that's a good thing. But yeah, I mean, I've fought with. I hate to take medicine, so I've kind of fought with that over the years. But when it got to the point where they started telling me you got to eat your vegetables, I was like, no, not happening. I'm sorry, you know. First time I told my doctor that, he just looked at me and says, you don't eat any vegetables? I said, no, none whatsoever. I said, I'd never make it as a vegetarian because I don't eat vegetables. I said, I'd starve to death. I said, I am a carnivore through and through, meat and potatoes or rice. I ate a lot of rice, you know.
Yeah, I like rice.
And he's like, yeah, well, we're in Louisiana. Of course you eat a lot of rice. I said, yeah. I said, I grew up. There was rice made for every meal. My granddaddy was insistent. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, didn't matter. There better be a pot of rice made. And not no reheated rice. A fresh pot of rice made. And so my grandmother had a little 1 quart pot. And she would make just that 1 cup's worth of rice, because usually he was the only one that ate it, but he had to have it every meal. She made sure he had fresh rice for every meal to eat. And so yeah, Anita, who knows, we may have known each other in our 20s and just don't remember. My 20s were pretty crazy. I'm just glad we didn't have social media back then when I was in high school or in my early 20s, because I would not be hireable today. No one would give me a job. Because I did some really stupid stuff when I was young. Just because somebody would say, oh, I dare you.
That's all they needed to say, huh?
Somebody said that to me. My friends would be like, no, don't dare her. Damn, now she's going to go do it just to prove you wrong. And but I was never like really bad or anything. I didn't end up in jail or anywhere like that. I used to laugh and say, actually, if I did something that would generate that kind of punishment, like being brought to jail, I said, I'd be safer in the jail. I said, because my mom will get a hold of me, she'll kill me. You know?
Right.
I was more afraid of my mother than I was of going to prison. You know? So I was like, yeah, put me in jail. I'll be safe. She won't be able to get to me. A pinch of baking soda in a cup of coffee reduces acid. Wow. Now I know some people do a little pinch of cinnamon or nutmeg when they make a pot of coffee, and they'll just like a little bitty pinch of it, and they'll toss it in there. into like the whole pot, and you
What
don't
is this?
taste it,
What is
but
it supposed to do?
it's supposed to like reduce the acid reflux that you would get from coffee. And
Cinnamon is supposed to do something. I can't remember.
but that's what my mother started doing. That she had taken the train out to Phoenix when I got ready to have my neck surgery, because she came and stayed with me for a month after surgery, so I wouldn't be by myself. And the conductor, she had said something about what good coffee he brought every time she'd ask for a cup of coffee. And he started telling her about, oh, yeah, I'll put a pinch of cinnamon. And if I'm out of cinnamon, I'll use nutmeg. And she was like,
Okay.
really? And she's like, oh, yeah. He said, it works like a charm. He says, everybody loves it. And he says, my grandmother did it. So my mother did it. So I did it. I do it, you know. And he was an older gentleman at the time. He was probably in his 70s or 80s. And he was still a conductor on a train. He was like, not really a conductor, but more like one of the butlers or something that would go up and down and off, you know, bring people drinks or food or that kind of thing on the train.
Porter?
A porter, thank you. Yeah, that's what they call it. And but yeah, I mean, it just kind of depends. I know it's like my brother, he drinks milk like most people drink water. I mean,
Really?
we go through anywhere from 2 to 4 gallons of milk every other day.
Oh, wow.
That's how much milk he drinks. I'm lucky if I get a glass out of it.
Wow.
I don't ever drink it anymore. And my son only drinks it in his coffee. And but my brother and my nephew, they both drink drink milk like it's water. And which I don't have room to talk because I drink coffee like Coca-Cola like water.
Okay.
And if I cut out my Coke, I'd probably drop 10 pounds in a week. Just to get rid of the. So it's funny, it's like I don't drink coffee at night, but I drink Coke all the way up until I go to bed.
Yeah.
You know, so
Okay. So
it's
you're probably
still,
just like your mom
yeah,
because it's got
yeah.
caffeine.
If the weather's cold, I like to have coffee because it warms you up. But other than that, yeah, I drink Coca-Cola or iced tea. I make a lot of iced tea. And I'm funny about my iced tea. I only use certain brands. Has to be made a certain way, or it doesn't taste right. And I have a couple of my son's friends. Whenever they come to the house, the first question they walk in the door is, "Do you have any tea, Miss Sherry?"
Really?
Yeah, they like my tea, and I'm like, "No, but I can make some. Just hang on." And but I don't know, what is allopathic medicine?
Naturopathic medicine, like herbs.
Okay,
And
okay.
yeah. And we were
Gotcha.
talking earlier about
Hi,
somebody had
Annette. Hi, Kim.
asked about any Reiki people. I've had Reiki done on me. Yeah, let me tell you the story about Reiki. When I
Yeah.
when I guess people were seeing something in me that I didn't see. I started a new job, and this lady on the job invited me to a Reiki class. And I was like, no, thank you. Which I didn't even look it up. I was like trying to learn the job, and get situated at the job. I was like, I'm not trying to do anything else.
Yeah.
And
Who's got time to take a class, right?
right, years later, I realized, oh, I missed an opportunity because I could have at least known what Reiki was. I just didn't know.
Well, I know I've had several people tell me, other
Mhm.
psychics that have told me, you're a healer, right? You
Mhm.
should be taking Reiki classes and doing that
Mhm.
too.
Mhm.
And I was like, no, I didn't know that. I mean, there have been times when, like if my son's been sick or something like that, I would kind of put my hands on wherever he hurt and would just kind of pray on it, or whatever.
Right.
And it usually would make him feel better. My mother used to do that with us as kids. I mean, she would sit, rub our stomachs or rub our backs or whatever when we felt bad over giving us, a pill to take or something. She would use her hands and we just like lightly rub in circles like your stomach or your back or whatever it was that was hurting, and it would take it right away. And so she may very well have been a natural healer herself.
Right.
And so I know she was psychic. She saw visions, which she didn't like to deal with, because she always saw people's death, how they were going to die. If it was like a traumatic death, she would get a vision on it if she was anyone around them. Yeah. And she hated it. She hated that. But yeah, Sun T. Whenever I lived in a house, not an apartment, the last time I lived in a house, and we had there was that redwood that they do decks out of. I don't know what kind of wood it's called, but it's like red colored, wood.
It was redwood.
Redwood of it. They would do decks, and we had like a little deck off of the dining room. It was sliding glass doors, and there was like one section that was under the awning, and then another step up onto another section that was just out in the open. And I used to make sun tea out there all the time, because I could go put big gallon glass jar and put it out there for the day. Make some good tea that way. Cedar, thank you, Rose. A cedar deck is usually kind of a reddish colored wood, but yeah, a lot of people just say redwood decks. I was thinking it was called something else, but my mind's blank. Yeah, I guess it depends on where you are now. Like where I'm at here in Louisiana, it is very commonplace for people to go to what they call a traiteur, which is like a medicine woman.
Okay.
But in the Cajun culture. And they're called traiteurs. And I've only met one person that was an actual traiteur and watched her heal my son in like minutes. And it blew our minds. His dad and I both were like, what the hell did we just witness? He had got an ear infection one day and was like, running a fever, and his ear was hurting, and we were trying to get everything together to go to the emergency room to take him to the doctor. And in the process of trying to pack up he was like 5 or 6 at the time. We're trying to pack up a bag and everything, because Charity Hospital, you're going to spend the day. And, so you want to make sure you bring provisions. And the neighbor that lived next door to us, little Cajun hillbilly type woman, very nice, but she kind of kept to herself most of the time. And she came over out of the blue. She had never come to my house before. And she'd been living there for 6 months. We'd been living next door to each other. We'd say hello if we were both out in the yard, but she never came over to the house. But she came over that day and wanted to borrow a cup of sugar or an egg or something. I don't remember. And we were like, yeah, come on in. And my husband's running around trying to pack the bag, and she's like, is something wrong? And I said, well, our son's sick. We're going to take him to the emergency room, see what's going on. And she was like, oh, well, would you mind if I prayed over him? And we were like, yeah, knock yourself out, whatever. And she sat on the couch, and she had him come sit next to her and lay his head down in her lap. And she like rubbed her hands together, and she started speaking in tongues. It wasn't Cajun French. I know what that sounds like, but she was speaking in tongues, and she laid her hands over his ear and the side of his face, and kept chanting this like little sing-song thing, and she did it for about 5 minutes, and then she got up and she says, "Okay, thank you for the egg, sugar, whatever it was," and she left. And by the time I had walked her to the door to let her out and turn back around to pack up my kid to get him to the doctor, he's bouncing off the walls, completely normal, no fever, no earache, no nothing.
Wow.
It was that fast. I mean, my husband and I are both looking at each other going, what the hell did we just witness? It's like, wow, she came over and healed him that fast. It was like, holy moly, man. I didn't. And later on, when I said something to her, like a couple of days later, to thank her, and I said, you know, what did you do? And she just said, well, I'm a treater. It's just, you know, my grandmother did it, my mother did it, I do it. It's just in the family, this ability. And so, you know, when I see somebody hurt or sick, I try to help. And so kind of blew my mind. I was like, holy moly.
Yeah.
I had never witnessed anything like that before. So
it sounds like my story with the Reiki. It was like it was being introduced to you and you didn't even know it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the way the universe reaches out to us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now I know I've talked to people who do Reiki who talk about there are certain like steps that they do to prepare before they go do a healing. And they talked about they can feel the energy between their hands.
Right.
When it looks like you're manipulating air. You don't see anything. When I took when I first took Tai Chi classes, and I was it was a form of Tai Chi called Gikong. And part of what you do is you're pulling energy up from the earth and down from the heavens to meet in the middle. And part of the instruction was, you know, moving your hands like you're holding a ball and like pat and round it off.
Right.
And it literally feels like like you're holding something. It feels like a physical thing, although you're looking at your hands, there's nothing there, but your hands in midair, you know, and it's wild, but yeah, you can feel it. Okay. I mean, yeah, most real healers don't really charge for services. Now, some people do additional things when they do healings, and so, you know, that's why they charge. And a lot of people now kind of generally within our community is one of it's trading energy for energy. If somebody's giving you a reading or giving you a healing, then you offer them payment in kind as an exchange of your energy, you know, because what they're doing is a service, just like you pay your doctor for a doctor's visit. But that's, I guess, each person's decision if they're going to do that or not. But I mean, I have done it myself, and then in the process of trying to pull energy into this invisible ball, I can literally feel the heat in my hands. I mean, it feels like I've had my hands held over an open flame for 10 or 15 minutes. That's how hot they get. And that's kind of wild. I've only been able to do it a couple of times. So I'm sure there are things you do to make it more normal whenever you do that, you know, but I mean, I've known that there's a lot of physical therapists that are able to do that because they can then manipulate energy around somebody that's injured, with a physical injury. And I've heard of chiropractors that can do it, which helps them do what they're doing. I had never been to a chiropractor until I was in Phoenix, and my mother was with me, and we ran across a chiropractor who had a booth open at a home and garden show, and that we had gone to, and he was offering free. It was like a free scan that scans the nerves in your body to see what the pain levels were in your body. And when they had me step into the little thing and they ran the wand up and down, and I came back like almost totally red on my back. He was freaking out. He was like, "Oh my God, I don't even know how you're walking around," But I started seeing him, and I mean, he would crack my back and crack my neck and just, and it sounds so loud to yourself, but I mean, I would walk out of there not feeling any pain at all. It was just amazing. Didn't last long, but it felt good for the time period when it did work. But then they did surgery on me, and now they won't touch me. And once you get surgeries, chiropractors don't want to mess with that. It's if it's in the same area, because I guess they could do damage. That's right, Deb. Kevin Chandler. He does Reiki, and there's what's his handle? Kevin Loving Vibrations, I think it is. Kevin Loving Vibrations. He does. I mean, yeah, there are several people in the community that teach Reiki healing. I want a free healing from Cali Healer.
Really?
I know a lot of y'all may recognize the name. Very sweet lady. But it was like a 4-hour process. I mean,
really?
We had set up a time so that I would be available to lay down with no interruptions for a certain amount of time while she worked on me long distance. It was wild. I didn't see how it would work when she wasn't there, but it helped a lot. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And you got to stop and think, I guess, of what people have always done in the past before there was medications and surgeries and stuff. Horse chiropractors. Yeah, there's a couple of videos. A couple of people on YouTube, I've seen the videos that do chiropractic work on infants. Babies that cry all the time or constantly fussy and that kind of, and you see them manipulating, and you hear the little crack, crack, crack as they manipulate their bones and crack their backs and stuff, and suddenly you've got a screaming kid that turns into this happy little baby, and everything's cool. It's like, wow, that's kind of cool. Acupuncture works. I've known people that have had acupuncture. And then there's I know there's a couple of them that do it on animals like dogs and cats. Somebody wrote in here horses. I didn't know they did that with horses. But what's weird is that this is all stuff that our ancestors did because there was no other way, until people got scared and decided to label them all as witches and you got to get rid of
Yeah.
them, you know. So
Right. Right.
and I know I've seen some T-shirts and stuff that talk about they didn't get all of the witches
Really?
because I'm still here. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, I can see that.
Mhm.
um, reflexology, I've heard of that too. Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know what that is really, but I know Juno Sphere. She does the it's called Jin Shinjitsu. It's a form of from what I understand, it's a form of energy healing, but it's like you can pull and rub on a certain finger to get rid of an emotion or a feeling.
Okay.
Or you can
Okay.
rub on certain spots on your hands or on your feet, and it'll
Mhm.
make like a headache go away, or it'll make
Okay.
your decrease your appetite or that kind of thing. There
Okay.
was one that she used to use a lot for people that were depressed. It was like
Mm.
there was like a couple of fingers or something
Mhm.
you could pull on or something a certain way. I have to go find the paperwork and look it back up,
Yeah.
and it would help relieve depression.
That's
And
interesting.
yeah, Juno's been kind of out of the picture for a while. She's been in the process of moving, and
Okay.
so we used to do a show together on
Mhm.
Sundays,
Mhm.
um, a couple of times a month, and
Mhm.
invariably there was always somebody that needed something done,
Mhm.
and she would give little short, simple fixes that they could do to help
Mhm.
feel better, or to help them help a family member who may be depressed or anxious or
Mhm.
and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool. Um, reconnective healing. Did you see this? Kenneth
Mhm.
Edward wrote
I saw that.
reconnect. What
Oh,
is reconnective healing?
no, I'm not sure. I wrote it down. I was gonna look it up.
Um, let us know, Edward. That's interesting. Um, as Mary was saying, okay, yeah, you go overseas, especially to places like Peru and India and
Mhm.
places like that, and you find people there that do things the way they've been doing for thousands of years, and
Mhm.
it's pretty amazing to see it work. So yeah, I mean, uh, I've read that before. I know years ago I was my first attempt at doing a home business was
Mhm.
with a company that sold um, supplements and whatnot that were all natural, no
Mhm.
chemicals in them.
Mhm.
And one of the things that they offered was what they call Sunjing oil.
Mhm.
And it was like $30 for a little bitty bottle about this big, but
Mhm.
it only took like a drop and you
Mhm.
could work it into whatever area was hurting.
Mhm.
It would be
Mhm.
gone. I could take a drop and I could rub it in like here and here where your sinus
Mhm.
passages are. And
Mhm.
then, first 5 minutes, your eyes are watering like crazy because it's really potent. But
Mhm.
then it's like somebody's turned on a faucet. You start blowing all that crap out and you feel great afterwards. I mean, it really clears out the
Mhm.
sinuses.
Mhm.
And, but so yeah, I've heard about that. And, okay, reflexology is pressure points on the foot and hands.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, massages are wonderful. I love a good massage
Mhm.
anytime. Um, the company I worked for in Phoenix, it was a medical testing lab,
Mm-hmm.
and the COO had set it up that from several of the clinics that we ran,
Mm-hmm.
they would get the physical therapist would come over 2 or 3 times a week and do 15 or 30-minute chair massages, where you sit in one of those chairs where you're
Mm-hmm.
almost kneeling,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like the back of the chair is actually the front because you're leaning against it with your
Okay.
arms just hanging down, and then they work on your back
Okay.
and whatnot. Oh my God, it was fantastic.
Wow.
But I'm trying to see. Is there anything else you can think of? We kind of got off of depression a little bit. A lot of this ties into depression.
It does. You never know what causes it.
Because sometimes I know if there's physical issues
Mm-hmm.
that can cause depression.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be. Oh, I got involved in a conversation there. I was trying to what? And yeah, depression can cause physical problems.
Yeah.
In the reverse, as well.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I know it can disrupt sleep where people don't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It can disrupt eating habits where
Mm-hmm.
they
Eat
either
more,
eat
eat
nonstop
less.
or they don't eat at all.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
Mm.
And so Potato was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, our Native Americans, regardless of what tribe or clan they are,
Mm-hmm.
they all have their medicine people that
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of this kind of stuff that tends to fix whatever's wrong. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
you have to be smart about it. I mean, if it's something that a simple massage or a visit to a healer doesn't fix, then you have to be prepared to go to a doctor and see what else may be wrong. It could be
Right. Mm-hmm.
combination of things or something physical that oh wow. But you can use peppermint oil on the sinus passages.
Mm-hmm.
Just I mean, just a teeny little bitty drop of it, and just rub it in really, really good. Like work it in circles under, because your sinus passages go here and they go here across your top of your eyebrows. And if you do it in like circular motions as you go around that area, logically, my brain says just the rubbing on it alone is you're breaking up
Probably,
the blockage, in the sinus passages. And then when you add something like sunjing oil or peppermint oil or there's a couple of others too, and I can't for the life of me remember what they are right now that you can use. It's able to penetrate the skin to deal with the area that you're working on. So that's kind of interesting. Ooh, water on the knee. That sounds painful.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Sheila. It is. It's all connected. I mean,
it is.
When you're happy and you're you're kind of satisfied in your life of what's going on, and you're happy, and you're things just seem to be rolling along. It's like everything tends to just click into place and rolls right along, and you get one item that gets knocked off kilter, and it can throw the whole thing out of whack, from physical pain to emotional pain to mental pain to postpartum depression. I never suffered from that, but I had a few friends that did. And I know there was some celebrity, and I can't remember now who the hell it was, who always came across as this very happy and kind of carefree person in their personal life. And she wrote a book after she had her last child. She had several children already, that she had gotten that postpartum depression. And it was like she couldn't even stand to be around the baby. It just,
wow.
That's how badly it affected her. And she couldn't figure out why it was with the last one and none of the others that she had. She had like 3 or 4 kids already. So, and I remember thinking, that is odd. I wonder if it's just maybe because you're older by that point, or because you've had several children, that stuff isn't firing on all the same levels that it used to. I mean, our bodies are one great big electrical grid, with energy and electricity running through us, zapping the right centers that need to be zapped. And it's really very intriguing to watch shows on that. I used to sit and watch shows about that kind of stuff all the time, and would talk about, the electrical currents in the body and how this can affect that. And, because it'll attack certain nerve centers and whatnot. And it's like, wow, that's amazing. I know. Oh, okay. Somebody was talking to somebody else. I caught part of the conversation. I was like, what? What are they talking about? It gets interesting. Y'all are interesting, man. What can I say? Past life connections as well. That can have something to do, because it's something that gets drug into your lifetime this go round. And that's where Akashic record readings really come in handy, because then you're able to go in with a practitioner that knows how to guide you through it. And you're able to go in and face whatever that is and cut that cord and let it go. And it's amazing what the results can be out of that. What Rose said. Oh, your little power lines between the poles in your brain. And that's basically it. I mean, my mom had an aneurysm in her brain. And what saved her was the fact that it didn't burst. It, as the doctor or the neurologist put it, it sprung a leak.
Okay.
And I'm like, how the hell does your brain spring a leak? And he says, well, it's the blood vessels up in there. And for whatever reason, something caused some kind of a tear or a puncture or something on one of those vessels, and it sprung a leak.
Wow.
And that's what caused the aneurysm. If it had burst, it probably would have killed her instantly. Most people die from that. But because it just sprung a leak, they were able to go in and take care of it with surgery, within 24 hours. In fact, she was one of the first patients to use what they call the coil method for aneurysms. It was brand new, just being introduced to the medical field.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in lieu of drilling holes in their brain to go in and manipulate whatever was going on, because that's what they did before. They would drill a hole in your skull. And this was, they took platinum wire so thin that to see the wire, you'd have to have a special microscope just to see the wire. And they would go into the femoral artery in the groin.
Wow.
And they would go all the way up through your body into your brain.
Wow.
And they literally stuffed it into the leak. They stuck this platinum, and like stopped up the leak. And she was fine. I mean, she was home like within 2 weeks. When in the beginning they were telling us, she's going to be, months and months and months in ICU, and then in therapy, and then this, and then that. She was home 2 weeks later. They couldn't keep her in the bed. Even when she was in ICU, once she recuperated from that initial surgery, she would take her IV pole and get out of bed and go visit the other patients.
Wow.
To go cheer them up, and I'd come in. I'd come in on my lunch break, or when I'd get off work, I'd come in the nurse's station, and she wasn't in her room. The first time it happened, I went over to the nurse's station. I'm like, "Where's my mother?" And they looked up and said, "Oh, I don't know. She's around here somewhere." I'm like, "Wait, what?" I mean, I'm at Barrow's Neurological Institute, right? One of the top neurological institutes in the country or in the world. And the nurses were like shrugging their shoulders, like, "Yeah, I don't know. She's around here somewhere." I was like, "Excuse me?" And one of her nurses said, "Yeah, we can't keep her in the bed. She won't stay in the bed." So we put her stuff on an IV pole with wheels. And she goes all day. She visits everybody in all the rooms. They said we had to ban her from leaving the floor because we caught her trying to get in the elevator and go down to some of the other floors. And we were like, you can't go that far, because if something happens, we got to be right there to be able to deal with it. And but yeah, her doctors were flipping out. They couldn't get over how fast she was recovering with it. I was like, wow. I said, "Well, Mama, you just making it hard for everybody else to be able to drag it out."
Yeah.
But they put her in a special study for like 7 years after the surgery. She had to do regular check-ins and everything.
Yeah, they probably wanted to figure out why it worked, how it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, Mary, you're right. She was very lucky. The doctors could not get over how fast she recovered from that. And I mean, 2 weeks later, they sent her ass home because they couldn't keep her in the bed. They couldn't keep her in a room, So, and I was like, "Okay, fine." So, but when they did the surgery on my neck, they fused 4 vertebrae and put in a steel rod and screws. That's what holds my head up. I was back to work a month later.
Wow.
In a hard collar still, but I went back to work a month later. It was like, "Yeah, no, I can't afford to stay home. I need to go back to work." Because it's expensive to not get your full pay.
Right.
You only get partial pay, But yeah, it's amazing what our bodies can do to heal themselves with the right, I would say, with the right mindset, with the right manipulation of things around whatever the issue is, how fast we can heal. But yeah, I mean, I've always been a fast healer myself. I mean, and ruptured discs and no discs left and whatnot all up and down my spine. And I still get up and go to work every day. Some days are harder than others, but I still get up and go to work every day. And but you go, Winnie Boo. That's something else. Yeah, it's amazing when you see what the body is capable of doing. And I think it's possible even with depression. Just my layman's brain of what I've seen work in people around me growing up is having windows with them open, lots of brighter colors, uplifting music of whatever type of music you enjoy listening to and whatnot can all make a huge difference in your depressive state. Yeah. I'm talked out. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to throw in there?
I don't have anything. Nah, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, just to let y'all see, there's no, I didn't want to do that one. Add that. There is a Word doc that Isaac had sent me with some of the stuff on TRD, and I will post a copy of that in the description box after the show. So if y'all want to go in and make a copy or download it or something, you can. And that should do it. We will be back in 2 weeks on the 23rd.
Okay.
And looks like next on the list is suicide ideation and anti-depression tips on positivity. Now, I don't know. We may have to break that up, but
there were tips on how to adapt and stay positive, and then suicide ideations.
So it's two different things. Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's what happens when you take notes on little scribbly pieces of paper like this. You look at it and you're like, what the hell did I write?
Right. So tips on how to adapt and stay positive.
Yeah. Tips on. Okay, well, that'll be a good follow-up to depression. So, and that'll be our topic next time. In the meantime, if y'all come up with any ideas of things you'd like us to cover, put something in the comments after the show. Come in and leave a note. And I go in and check all the comments. I used to answer them all. I can't anymore. I can't keep up. But I do read them all. So if y'all have any ideas of stuff you'd like to see us cover, just say the word and we will definitely put that on the list.
Yeah.
And alrighty then, guys. I think I've got to be on the other channel in like 6 minutes. So
okay. All right.
I just happened to look at my watch and I was like, how come my clock is off? And it's like, I forgot to set it forward. Don't forget to set your clocks ahead. We're now in daylight savings time, so an hour ahead. And thank y'all for coming, and thank y'all for all of the wonderful stories and stuff that you shared and all the different things. There's lots of stuff that we can all kind of put to use That'll help us deal with issues as they come up.
Yeah.
So, and alrighty then. We're gonna say goodbye for now.
Yes. Goodbye, everybody.
Y'all have a wonderful week, and we'll see you again on the 23rd.
Yes.
All right. Bye.
Bye.